You don't have to call me sir. I appreciate it, but we're colleagues. We're colleagues now, Colin.
Oh, that's just something I do.
I know. I'm the same way. I'm bad at it.
I call the kids at work younger than me, sir. I'm just like, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Go do that, sir. You know,
I called Ben boss the other day, and he's like, don't ever call me that. But anyway, all right. I think we're live. We are live. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for joining us. NXT TakeOver. Already the next one is upon us. So we're going to review last night's go-home show. It is your next level wrestling review, talking all things NXT. The date was, let me check my calendar. It was September the 23rd episode. Man, I got to get my day straight. With all the switch up September, I was on the Wednesday locker room. You are on the Impact Attack. Cats and dogs are living together. It's mass hysteria, Colin. But either way, we're going to break everything down from last night's NXT episode, the good, the bad, the ugly. We always just talk business segment by segment, what business was done well, what could have been better. And we're going to go over all of it right here on the Next Level Wrestling Review. Colin, how are you doing this morning now that you've been newly radicalized?
Yes, Dr. Ted, I have been radicalized in Ben Hameen's ways. He has also given me several new wives since going through the program, and I will say it is great not being locked up in that cell with Andrew Bello talking about President Trump.
Are those all your wives behind you, Colin?
Yes, they are, Dr. Ted. And don't you get out of line. They have AK-47s and they know how to use them.
Are they some kind of technological AK-47s that can shoot through the computer screen?
I do not disclose the type of weaponry we have here at Hameen Media.
Oh, shit. All right. Well, Colin, this is a new side of you I didn't expect to see. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of taken aback here. But do you feel...
should be infidel.
Do you feel at the very least that being newly radicalized, that you'll be able to give an unbiased opinion on this program that we saw?
I don't know about that, but I will try.
All right. You know, in life, all you can do is try, Colin. And if you're here to try, then I'm here to try with you. But we'll do it together. Y'all Jeebus. Well,
I just have one thing to say, Dr. Ted. What you gonna do when Hameen Mania runs wild on you?
I suppose I'm going to review the NXT show is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
Well, Colin, I'm glad to see this new Saudi. I'm feeling you've really came into your own here, and perhaps this is the change that was needed in order for you to really find yourself. And so, we always talk, we talked earlier in the week about, people need to really just find their passions and go for it. And it appears here, Colin, that you finally found what makes you Colin Wysong. You found your passion, my friend.
I did. It is following the one true Ayatollah, the one true Ben Hameen.
Well, I'm at a loss for words here. So I guess if anything, besides obviously being newly radicalized, how did you feel just right off the bat about last night's episode?
It was good. Everything was good. The business was good. Even the women wrestling, I allowed them to wrestle last night on NXT.
I know that Ben Hameen right now, he's preoccupied with some other things. So listen, man, if you want to, at least for just this hour and a half or so that we're going to talk over this, if you want to drop that accent, you're more than welcome to. And I promise I won't tell Ben.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. We'll keep it on the kayfabe.
You're not going to tell on me or anything, Dr. Ted?
Just don't yell at me anymore or threaten me with guns, and we'll call it square.
Okay. Can I take this off? I don't see the pressure of this band thing on my head. I don't see how he does it all the time.
It's very hot, especially in the summertime. Yeah, yes. You can go ahead. Okay. That's okay.
Just gonna take this off. Oh, it's so much better, Dr. Ted. So much better.
I hate to ask you to do this, but
tell the wives to go away.
Yeah, I
Right.
think from what
Yeah.
I've understood, YouTube kind of frowns upon, having weaponry in the background looking like they're about
Okay.
to.
Let me tell them to get out of here real quick. Go. Get out. Get out. I don't need you women anymore. Hang on. It's they're slowly filing out, Dr.
Okay,
Ted. I
dispersing.
apologize.
Well, I know
Yeah,
you
there's a
have
lot of
that
them.
small space, and
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
but understandable.
Okay. I think they're gone now, Ted.
All right.
I think they're gone now.
I feel a lot better now. If anything, I feel a lot more like I can be a lot more open. I think with them standing behind you there, I was feeling like,
They're
it's scary.
They're crazy.
I just have one wife, and that's difficult enough for me. I can't imagine having a multitude of them. So good luck to you on that, my friend.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. It's a new balance in my life that I'm trying to handle here on the Next Level Wrestling Review with you, Dr. Ted, only on hackerhameen.podbean.com. I'm excited to be here today, Ted. Newly radicalized in the faith of Ben Hameen, in the ways of Ben Hameen, and we're gonna have a great show today. Like it's lifted my spirits. I feel like a whole new man, Dr. Ted, and as long as you don't tell him I took the gimmick off, we should.
No, we'll keep that on the down low, on the DL, if you will.
That works. How have you been since the last that we talked? I know I was on the Impact Attack. You were on the Wednesday locker room. Man, that had to be painful. Sitting there having to watch Raw and then do a show with Andrew Bello.
It was literally the first time I've sat down, and granted, I ended up watching just clips because I didn't quite get through the entire Raw just because I'm not used to watching 3-hour wrestling shows. But at least I had a chance to cut up a little bit with Billy Ray and Andrew. What I was told them as, they have way too much fun over there, and I had to see what all the hype was about. But it was interesting going back and watching Raw. And I have to say, doing this show and then going and watching Raw, as much as I hate to say it, NXT, I feel like puts on a better show, man, honestly. And I think part of it is just in the simplicity of it and the fact that they hold true to, for the most part, to the stories they're trying to tell, and they play it out and give viewers context or reason to be able to tune in week in and week out to see what's going to happen as these stories develop. And when I watched Raw as a new viewer, essentially, I felt very confused. And as I've elaborated on before, there's a difference between intrigue and confusion. And when the viewer's confused as to why things are going on, unfortunately, it's not a good thing. It's hard to build, emotional context for confusion. When I'm confused, it doesn't make me say, well, I'm really confused. I want to keep being more confused, so I'm going to keep watching. Instead, it's more like, I'm not following this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a shame because there was bits and pieces that were good that we got into, but just on a whole, it was hard to follow as a quote unquote new viewer, someone that hadn't watched for a long time. And that's where, as we do on this show, I try not to just shit on everything or just criticize everything. I try to at least give rationale and reason and opportunity for change. And I think really the opportunity for change there is to give viewers more context over what is going on, have people understand the why of what you're doing it and not just what. And I feel like, unfortunately, they're throwing a lot of stuff against the wall, trying to see what sticks. And that's the word, what. And when it's just a bunch of whats without the context of why, then it's kind of, getting more like philosophical, but truly that's what it comes down to. The what doesn't matter. It's the why and the context behind it, the motivation of the characters that you're showing on the show that really gets people emotionally involved and want to follow that story. And that's what I feel like on this show, for the most part, we got a lot of that. We got a lot of whys here. And that's why I think NXT on a whole, tends, even though I don't know what the ratings are versus Raw or SmackDown, but I imagine with it being the third tier show, it might not be as much, but even though the ratings may not reflect it, or maybe they do, I don't know. I feel like this is an easier show to follow, and I'm generally more interested in what's happening on this program.
Yeah, they tend to do anywhere between 600 to 800 plus thousand views a week. Of course, they haven't been running head to head with AEW lately. But I liked some of the things that you said on the Wednesday locker room, Ted. You made a lot of great points about Retribution. only attacking at certain times, that they should be out there constantly. I mean, if they're, looking for ways to attack, like you said in that one match where they should have come out and gotten their retribution, so to speak, on the team, and the fact that we don't see them on NXT, and now that they're only a Raw exclusive brand, it's like, what's the point of having this Antifa type group run amok in the WWE, but you're only going to sequester them to one segment, one little 15-20 minute segment or whatnot, a show, or when you just need them to go out there, when they really should be, running amok constantly, no matter what. Like, there should be some kind of like, oh God, they've gotten into the truck now, or oh, they're taking over, just constant like, oh God, they're back, and having Adam Pearce just, pulling what hair he has left out of his head to, trying to figure out. Yeah, no, he's pulling eyebrows out now. Just to figure out how to stop these guys. And again, that could introduce Adam Pearce again to a lot of people that haven't ever seen him before. But I also like what you said about the why. Millennials and this newer generation of kids growing up, they need to know the why on a lot of these things. You can't really tell them, from my work experiences and other things, you really can't just be like, hey, I need you to do this. Because then they really want to know, okay, well, why am I doing this? Why are you asking me to clean the baseboards? Why are you asking me to wipe down the dust on the light fixtures? Hey, it's all about optics. It's all about this. If you just give them that little bit of a why, they'll go along with pretty much what anything that you ask them to do, so to speak. And that's what I think NXT is targeting, that younger audience, that newer audience, and the millennials on up to the new generations that we have. And that's why you're seeing Triple H give us those whys for a lot of these things.
And I'm glad you put it that way, because the why goes beyond just, telling wrestling stories. I use it all the time in my work, just working with patients. I can have an understanding of what they are coming to me for, what I think they should get, but having the understanding of why, okay, so you want to be out of pain, or you want to be able to move better. It's different than just saying, okay, you want to do this, so then we're going to do this, versus, okay, you want to be able to pick up your grandkids, or you want to be able to go for a walk without hurting. Okay, having that understanding of why, then I can, start to understand what is going to motivate you as a person, and what we need to do to keep you pushing through to reach your goals, and helping people, remind people of that. And same thing, when I give an exercise, I don't just say, do this exercise and that's it. I say, okay, we're doing this exercise because it's going to facilitate XYZ muscle, and that's going to allow you to have less pain. Like, for instance, we do a lot of quad activation for people in knee pain. And so I try to explain, okay, by getting more activation in your quad muscle, then the joint itself isn't going to have to take on more of that load when you're walking around, and instead the muscle's going to take on more of that load. And then I have to explain to them, that's why when we start doing this, your muscle is going to be sore, but as it gets used to it, it's going to get better, and then we're going to get you better. And having the context of why, it's not just in healthcare or in wrestling, it goes with everything in life. I've gone on this before. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab a book here, just because I always put this over, and I recommend you read it too, Colin. It's let me find it here. If I can find it. Well, shit.
We've got Athers in the chat today, on YouTube today, Dr. Ted, and he feels like Adam Pearce should be the leader of Retribution, Swerve City.
Whoa. That would be a huge swerve.
And that would explain how they keep getting in the building.
That would explain a lot. Yeah. I can't find the book I'm looking for now, but it's called Start. It's an author called Simon Sinek, who has a lot of really good stuff on YouTube as well as other books. But it's a great book, and it basically breaks down. His is more going towards like either leaders or entrepreneurs or business owners or people that just help operate businesses. But there's a lot of context for life in general, and it just talks about why certain companies do better than others, and it comes down to understanding what their why is and not just what they're doing. But not to get off on philosophical things, but
what was the name of that book again? Because you kind of
sorry, it's called Start with Why by Simon Sinek. It's a great book, and probably one I'll sit down and read again, because it is just there's just a lot of good stuff. And I feel like anyone that's involved with any kind of business, like I feel like if the people that were higher ups in whatever wrestling company were to sit down and read and apply the concepts in that book, it would change a lot of things for the better from the programming we see on our television to building a better cultural environment in the locker room and empowering the guys and girls that are putting on these performances, and just all around, it would help things just on the whole, from both ends of the spectrum. But I'm not here to just break down books, Colin. We're here to break down NXT.
Oh, this isn't the next level book review?
No, that's not till down later on.
Oh man, I had brought Where the Red Fern Grows, and I was going to talk about it.
Well, we'll have to save that for another time, Colin.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We only have so much time here.
Well, I wrote a book report on that, and I didn't do my homework this week, Dr. Ted.
Well, I'll tell you what then, Colin, if you want to read something so bad today, we can read some emails. How about that?
Oh, that works. Let's read some emails. Let's hop in. We only have one email, and that is from our YouTube listener, Joe Atherton from Tables, Athers, and Chairs. Hello, gentlemen. My choice for Damien Priest's next opponent for the NXT North American title is none other than AJ Styles. Just kidding. I think a program. Yeah, that's a nice little swerve there. I think a program with Bronson Reed could be very fun. If you want to go down the road of keeping the title and protecting Reed, then maybe Cameron Grimes, who's been great value since finding his delusion to the moon character. Thanks, guys. Athers. Now, Dr. Ted, we have seen a little bit of a feud with Bronson Reed and Damien Priest, and that was kind of right around the same time that Priest was having his issues with Cameron Grimes.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of kind of plugging Bronson Reed in there. You've got two big guys, and it seems like right now they're going to feed Damien a lot of like smaller guys. Like we saw Austin Theory tonight. He's got his yesterday. He's got his match with Johnny Gargano set up for TakeOver. So, they're feeding him a lot of smaller guys here. And actually, Ted, I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Kushida kind of be one of those guys to kind of play around with Damien Priest. Even though it seems like they want him to be more in that main event title picture, especially having him in that gauntlet match. I just don't know, like the talented guy that Kushida is. I just don't see why like he's kind of get wasted, in some of these matches. Now we are starting to see a little bit of an edge form with Kushida. And I think that would be, if you get that killer instinct, this edge that's forming on Kushida, and you have him go against Damien Priest, that I think that could be a pretty neat little program. I don't know, as we saw tonight, they're trying to have this cool, confident, like, he's almost like Damien the Rock Priest, and kind of how he's got this cool confidence about himself. I mean, he even hit on the backstage interviewer, hey, I'll see you later at the after party.
Well, I had alluded to before, it felt like when they put Damien Priest in there with Thatcher last week that they were putting Thatcher kind of in the babyface situation. But seeing what happened on this program, I've kind of started to realize or think that perhaps instead they're really more trying to make Damien Priest almost like a cool babyface that kind of like you said, The Rock. He acts almost like a heel, but he's put in situations that, in the context of which he's really more of the baby face, obviously facing Austin Theory tonight and then going on to face Johnny Gargano, another heel at the pay-per-view. It makes me wonder if they are going that way. And in part, I'm not completely against it. I think he would make a great heel, but I also know he can't help himself in the ring with doing a lot of the flashy things, which I've kind of criticized him for, as far as, it's hard to get heat as a heel and work your size appropriately when you're doing a lot of, big flashy moves off the ropes. But that being said, in that context, as a baby face, potentially that could work. And so, not that I'm against him finding a reason to face Bronson Reed or Kushida, especially since, as kind of the quote unquote, cool baby face, or, the more, heelish baby face, it would still work. And if anything, it opens him up to more possibilities of different feuds to have. But I can't help but feel like they're almost putting him in a baby face role. And so to that end, only because I would really, as a baby face, you want to put them in more situations to help get them over. I would want to see him in more programs with people that have heat. Like I feel Johnny Gargano is getting some heat, and we'll get into the match tonight. Austin Theory, I think, can be a good heel. It seems like most of his heat though is, perhaps for what he's doing outside the ring rather than inside the ring. And so I think that was a big reason why this match tonight I didn't think was as effective as it could have been. And I don't think that's any fault to the guys in the ring. It was an uphill battle. I don't think Damien Priest has done enough as a baby face to really get over as a face. And I don't think in this match tonight, Austin Theory has done enough as a heel on this program to really establish heat. And so you kind of had a heel that really didn't have a lot of heat and a baby face that really hasn't been established as, as an over baby face yet. And that's was, it's hard to build emotional context with that, as hard as those guys work. Cause I think technically it was sound. And again, we'll get more into it, but the emotional context wasn't quite there for it. But it will be interesting to see where they go with it going along. I think they need to pick one or the other, because there's nothing worse than apathy or, not knowing whether to cheer someone or to hate them. You definitely want to build one or the other. So I hope they continue to pick a direction. If they are going to put them against more heels and want to build them up as a baby face, that they keep going that direction, at least for a while. And then once he gets over, then we can see him more playing around with other baby faces. And I feel like that'll be more effective, and it would be better for him to go that route.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. That's the fun thing about this is you can go so many directions, I think, with this North American title, and that's, I think, what they're trying to do here. I mean, we're seeing the I guess the precipice, the precipice or the precomings or whatever of precomings. Yeah, oh, that
pre. Well, no, that's another. That's another show.
No, that's a big Ray show. They're starting with the whole the family of gold thing, as we get into this first match that we saw tonight and who won that match, they're setting up there with her shot. And then even with what Johnny had to say to Austin Theory, soften him up, and I'm going for that North American. So I think we could see maybe Damien Priest lose that title here, or even his feud just start with Johnny Gargano, to really like push that feud, because Gargano has some great feuds, and I think him going back and forth with Priest and maybe ultimately get wrestling that title away from Priest somehow, some way, is kind of the way that they're going to go with that. But Ted, if you're ready to dive right into the beginning of this show, I think we should go on ahead and do it.
Well, sometimes the best thing to do is just to dive in head first, and but to make sure we just go right into the deep end. We don't want to hit our head at the bottom of that proverbial pool there. So might as well just jump right in the deep end and let's go right into it.
All right. Well, I am pulling up my match notes from ProWrestling.com. I want to thank Mike Wilkinson for Matthew Wilkinson for watching the show and setting up this thing for us so that I can just read these and I don't really have to take all those great of notes.
And I would take opportunity to thank our Discord listeners too. If you haven't joined the Discord group yet, be sure to hit us up on Twitter and give you the link. Yeah, the weird thing with Discord is you only have like 24 hours to utilize the link to join. So we constantly have to send it out.
You can change that, actually. I'll have to teach you guys on how to do some of those things. But yeah, you can change the invitation to where it stays up permanently and it can have an infinite amount of uses.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'll show you guys.
I am not a technological, I'm really good with working with people when it comes to working with technology. I mean, the fact that I can get this to live stream to YouTube is a miracle in and of itself. I'll just say that.
Well, I just learned how to live stream Zoom to Twitch as well. And then of course the Discord thing, it's kind of cheating. We're actually just sharing my screen in the Discord channel, but people can still interact and watch. Actually, before we got on today, Ted, I was watching NXT in the same little watch along room that we have. So again, you could find us in there streaming these shows sometimes for you guys just to watch, and that's an exclusive thing of being a part of the Hami Media Group Discord and being able to interact with everybody. I know Ben's been having a lot of fun the past couple of days since the Golden Ayatollah has joined the Discord group, but we're not here to really put over Ben Hameen anymore as much as we already have. We're actually here to talk about NXT, and we had a number one contenders battle royal. Now, Ted, I want to just talk about this show as a whole. A lot of I like the fact that this whole show was pretty much gimmick matches with some nice little singles matches sprinkled throughout. We started the show with the battle royale. We ended the show with the gauntlet, and in between we had from the mind of Sherlock Dango, the whatever tag match that was. That was a great tag match. I enjoyed that whole premise of opposite teams, but if they win, then they have to wrestle each other for a shot for the number one contenders. I mean, and that whole segment was just fun, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the first thing off the bat I did notice too is, where was the crowd on this show? Did you notice that?
There wasn't a crowd, but they had the noise piped in. And I noticed that as I was listening to it on headphones, and you could really hear like the fake crowd noise where, you'd get some people booing when bad things were going on, and you'd get some cheers. There weren't ever any real chants or anything like a real wrestling crowd. But, somebody made a comment about AEW as well. Like some of their stars and something, like they were missing a few key people in AEW. So maybe it's something going on with COVID, or maybe they're trying something new.
It was interesting. I just thought, again, my context is someone that does watch the show every week. And so seeing that was weird. Now, someone tuned in for the first time, maybe they wouldn't have picked up on that necessarily. I don't know. But I will say, as someone that does regularly watch the show, and that's the thing that's hard when you write, is you want to be able to get new viewers interested, but you need to be able to give continuancy for people that have been watching the show for a while. And they didn't really explain that. I mean, I don't know if there really would be a good way to explain it, but that was something that I did think was weird, is, all of a sudden there's no crowd, but we're still getting crowd noise. And it didn't come across in the most natural way, at least from my standpoint.
Yeah. It when I realized kind of what was going on, it did take away from the match a little bit from me, but then it just kind of became background noise. It didn't really bother me as much as it did when I first kind of was like, wait, there's crowd noise, but there's nobody out there. I kind of miss seeing the Boog with his mask on, just doing crazy things while the other wrestlers wrestled.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know who the Boog is. Well, Eric
I can't say I do.
Yeah, hopefully one time he hasn't been on NXT since we've been watching Ted, but Eric Bugenhagen, I think you would enjoy.
I mean, I like the name already, Bugenhagen. That's just fun to say.
Yeah, he's kind of like this. He comes out very high, energetic, like rock and roll style. He's a lot of fun when he comes out. But we're not talking about the Boog. We're talking about this Contenders Battle Royal, and everyone was already in the ring with the exception of Candice LeRae and Rhea Ripley, who got special entrances, which that kind of tells you one or two things, Ted. Either Rhea's going over or Candice LeRae's going over. We get a backstage quick little shot where we see Candice LeRae. Actually, no, sorry. Tanya Harding attacked Nancy Kerrigan with a steel pipe in the back. Oh, no, wait. That was Tegan Nox and Candice LeRae, wasn't that?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Of course it was.
And then she slams one of those rolly cases into Tegan Nox's knee, just taking her out of the match. And Candice LeRae just vicious and taking it out on Tegan. And then when the match starts and the two Titans in that ring, Ted, we've got Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez, just begin throwing out everybody. Gia gets thrown out, then Raquel throws Raven, then Rhea Ripley throws Ellie out. These are a lot of women that I don't think you and I know who they are. Rhea Ripley then follows up by throwing out Roddy Strong's wife, Marina Shafir, and Gonzalez throws another in the thing. He wrote another new name. So clearly he doesn't know who this person is either.
I guess it's trainees under, in NXT that, a battle royal is a good opportunity for people that are new to at least get a chance to get in the ring without exposing them. And so this was fine. They didn't do anything to really expose them. And it gave them a chance to put over Raquel as a monster, which then created more context and meaning for when she got eliminated eventually.
And then of course, they just continue to eliminate people. Gonzalez throws someone else out. Ripley hits a big boot to eliminate another person. Catalina gets booted out. Then Casey Catanzaro, or is it Kofi Kingston Zaro, is then seemingly eliminated, but she doesn't land on her feet, and she she lands perfectly a flat back bump style with her arms and her legs up in the air. Then she kind of rolls over, does a handstand, and is like hooks her feet under the rope and pulls herself up back in that way. I mean, this, everyone loves the Kofi spot. Everyone loves the Naomi spot here in the Royal Rumble. I think we found the new person that they're going to have, because she pulled off a ton of like acrobatic stuff in this match. I mean, I thought she was going to slip and fall off the steps when Indy Hartwell tried to kick her off. Her friend Kaden Carter tries to help her get back in the ring, but then she gets eliminated. But that allows Catanzaro to jump on her shoulders and is able to get back into the match. Just that was a fun little segment there. When you guys booked your battle royals, did y'all try to come up with ways to have like these, like, oh, he didn't get feet down, he didn't quite get eliminated, let's get him back in? Did you guys in OVW do anything like this?
Yeah, occasionally. And one of the most fun ways we did is we had our one-legged war vet, Michael Hayes, not Michael PSAs. There's another guy whose shoot name is Michael Hayes. And so we did a gimmick where he got eliminated, but his prosthetic leg had fallen off in the ring. And so when he fell out, he literally just hopped back in the ring. And they said, well, I guess technically both feet weren't on the ground, and he got to continue on. And then he got knocked out again. And then the heel took the leg and threw it on the outside. And it was like, now he got eliminated. So that was,
I like it.
Different way. So it is fun. And there's only so many ways, but I feel like, we try to think of just things that are a little bit different. And that's just one that comes to mind as far as being one of the more unique ways, but it is hard. But at the same time, I think it's, when you can, it's a great thing to do. And this was a great little spot to where she didn't need to win to get over. She just was able to show her athleticism here and put over her history, competing in American Ninja Warrior. I like that the announcers brought that up. And it just shows that, even though she took the loss here, that she has more to show, and it'll be fun to see how well she can incorporate her more athletic prowess in the ring as we go forward here.
Oh yeah, for sure. And she climbs that pole like a tree. The little things that she does here, I think she's going to have a nice little spot in this year's upcoming Royal Rumble, where she's probably going to flex some of those skills and American Ninja Warrior skills. I mean, that's kind of where she gets that from, is because she was that. But we get Catanzaro finally gets eliminated, and we've got Dakota Kai, Candice LeRae, and Shotzi Blackheart still in the ring, and they begin to team up on Shotzi Blackheart. They end up getting Dakota Kai eliminated, so we just have Shotzi and Candice. And the way that this match ended, Ted, this was, again, very creative. I don't think I've seen two wrestlers wrestle on the steps like that, and she's able to kind of flip Shotzi off the steps. And our winner of this match, going on to face Io Shirai at NXT TakeOver for her title, is Candice LeRae, and it's the beginning of the gold for the Gargano family here. It's their quest, man. I think they're going to do it, Ted.
It seems like they are setting it up for sure.
I think Candice LeRae is going to be able to overcome Io Shirai here. Now, for you, with this match, and I know it's a battle royal, was business done here in this match?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think multiple pieces of business is done. And it's good when you can do that, because battle royals can sometimes be difficult because there's so many people in the ring. But if you can plan out, a well-paced battle royal where certain spots happen at certain times, then you can create it's similar to a Royal Rumble or later on a gauntlet. You can create little situations that can continue on beyond the Rumble and besides just who wins the match. Like, for instance, we saw with Raquel eliminating people, and Rhea Ripley's prowess in the ring and her power as well. They've alluded to that in the past, and this was another excuse to allude to a future confrontation between those two. And not to mention, again, with Casey Catanzaro showing her athleticism and what that can mean for them. Who was it that eliminated her eventually? Can you remember?
It was Candice LeRae. I want to say it was Candice LeRae and Dakota Kai. Like they worked her in the corner. And like Candice did the like running thing where they like run and hit you with their back, or it might have been a running splash. And then Dakota Kai did that thing where she runs around to give her like the big running boot, and that's what kind of finally pushed her over the edge. Like she booted her over the top rope.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, and so I guess that's just more helping to elevate Candice LeRae as the winner here. But I thought this was well done. Battle royals, and they can sometimes be difficult, and I've seen so many, and it makes me mad every time that didn't happen here, where the people are just fighting. There's no spots. This happens a lot of times on the indies. And then all of a sudden they get the go home queue. And then all of a sudden it's like everybody out of the pool. People get eliminated left and right. It's like, oh, they got the go home queue, versus we saw a lot of quick eliminations on the first half to kind of narrow down the playing field. And then on the back half of the battle royal, it got into more of working in the spots of context and meaning, eventually leading down to Candice LeRae winning here. And so it will be interesting, especially since both her and Gargano are set up to have championship opportunities if they are going to pull the trigger that they've been alluding to all this time. And I think, honestly, it's a good time to do it. As far as Io Shirai, I feel like since she's gotten the title, really hasn't had a chance to do much. And there's always more money in the chase for a baby face, unless you really have some interesting stories to tell. And with NXT being a program where they only have so many people they've established for her to go through. Now, granted, I think Io Shirai still could have some good, like, for instance, I think Rhea Ripley, if anything, should have gotten an opportunity to face Io Shirai one-on-one anyway, but obviously they aren't going to go that direction. And so it does make me question if they have other plans for Rhea Ripley, which we've alluded to as well. But I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily, because Io Shirai can then chase Candice LeRae, and I think that's going to be more interesting than the other way around. And then Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano can finally play out being the proverbial king and queen of NXT, without Gargano necessarily having the NXT championship, just as a North American championship. Same thing with Priest. He can get over without the championship, I think, especially if they're trying to establish him more as that kind of that cool cool baby face or heelish baby face, where he's just kind of, I'm trying to think, just more has machismo, for lack of a better word. So it will be interesting to see if they go ahead and pull the trigger, and they might not, because again, that could be just another step in the journey for the Garganos, or maybe one of them wins championship gold, not the other, and that can cause a little rift in their relationship. So, even if they don't pull the trigger, that's not necessarily a bad thing either, because then they can provide more context for it. So as a viewer, this makes it even more intriguing for me, because I am interested to see where they go with it, because I don't think there's necessarily, I think there's multiple right answers for that, depending on where they want to go with it. So it will be interesting, and truly, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I meant to bring this up at the top of the show, Ted. I would be terrible if I forgot this. So our homework last week was book Rhea Ripley or book Mercedes Martinez after their cage match. And there was one thing that we didn't catch, and I was complaining about this on Twitter, Dr. Ted, because I feel like this just continues with the WWE's bad business, and it falls here in NXT. Shortly after the night 2, after the cage match, we got a WWE.com exclusive of the Robert Stone brand cutting all ties with Mercedes Martinez, which leads to her becoming a member of Retribution. Like, nobody even saw any of this coming, the way that they just kind of cut off Mercedes Martinez the way they did in NXT. But I also feel like that, oh yeah, see, even he was upset about Mercedes Martinez and Retribution. But it seems like with this match, they're setting up, I know he is excited. They're setting up Rhea Ripley versus Raquel as those two big, like, Titan women in the division here at NXT. And so maybe they needed something else for Mercedes Martinez to do, and because they were going to kind of plug Raquel into that spot that was probably, previously promised or thought of for Mercedes Martinez. I don't want to say anything's promised, because this is wrestling. Like,
right, yeah, nothing's promised.
They're cutting throats. They're cutting throats all over the place back there in the back.
And I tell people that all the time. Like, when I was helping run OVW, some of the talent would get so bad. They're like, well, Al said you all were working towards this. It's like, yeah, we were. And a lot of times it was the talent themselves didn't do the business they needed to in the match. And so we went a different direction with it. And so they're like, but you said, no, it comes down to, and that's the way it should be booked. You have the performance, you see how the crowd responds or how it plays out in the ring. And based on that, do we either keep heading the direction we had in mind, or and sometimes it works out even better. Sometimes we get an even better idea. You see a talent perform certain ways, like, ooh, this is an even better idea. And then we switch it up. You know what I mean? And so that's where nothing is promised, and it should really be week to week based upon the performances that we see in the ring. And that should be how it's booked, essentially.
Oh yeah. So after this battle royale, we go to the back where Damien Priest, again, we kind of touched on this. He's talking about his match with Austin Theory tonight in that cool and confident manner. And then he of course asked the young lady backstage if he's gonna see her later at the after party. That was kind of funny. And then we also
see, and I think this works because because as smarmy as he comes across. One of the things, again, I not to keep harping on Al, but Al Snow would say, and this is true, what are you doing as a baby face to make people want to live vicariously through you and make they say, man, I wish I could be that guy. And who wants to be the cool guy that just hit on chicks and carry around titles and wear sunglasses and just be a general badass. He's exuberating that, and I think having him work towards being a baby face is a good idea. And so I think going more towards that, and it's not a proverbial turn, it's just more so working him more in those type of situations. And I think in time and context and him working with the right heels, and that's important too, he needs to start working with heels that actually have heat, and that's where Johnny Gargano is, I think, a good choice. I think he'll start to get more over as a baby face.
All right, we go backstage to a little bit of a confusing segment. We've got Sherlock Zango, Dango. He's got this whiteboard with a bunch of different. He's got Uno Lorcan. He had Fabian Aichner or something like that. Like I had
all misspelled.
I meant to take a screenshot of this because that's the only way you could really enjoy a lot of some of the little ribs that they have for these like Fashion Police segments or these like little segments that Fandango do.
And I love that. It's like watching an episode of The Simpsons. You always got to keep an eye on the background to see just the little ribs they throw in there that's just easy to miss if you're not paying attention.
And then even Regal comes in and it was just like, and I felt like Regal was ribbing me because Athers knows that the crazy thing is when I'm not doing podcasting, I can do a pretty decent British accent, but then I come on to the airwaves and my British accent just is terrible and it goes right out the window. And I feel like Regal was ribbing me when he was just like, no terrible British accents here. Don't even try. It's
funny you say that because I do the same thing. My wife and I actually talk in shitty British. Of course, I've never thought mine was good. I'll go ahead and say mine's a shitty British accent. We talk about that all the time. Now I know we have a huge UK contingent that listens to the Hamid media, so I try not to offend them with my bad British accent, but just so we're clear, I do it more so because I find the English culture to be very endearing. Like I feel like, if there is such thing as having past lives, if you will, then a past version of me had to have lived in England, because even when I had the chance to visit, like I just felt so endeared with the culture. And I don't know if it could ever, find a way for it to happen, but if I were able to even, live there for a few years, I would just totally love it, because I find it very fascinating. I find I get along with a lot of my English friends. Like I feel like we really can relate to each other on a very deep personal level. Not to say I don't relate to my American friends too, but just something about the culture I found really endearing. And so just know, if you ever do hear my English accent, it is all completely out of love, mate. It really is. That's all I'll make anyone suffer through for this show.
Your Outback Ted accent was great, there, Dr. Ted. But we've got Fandango trying to explain this complex tag team match that he has to decide who is going to be the number one contender.
And I should mention too, because I just now realized that I have my for those that are watching on the YouTube on. I got to turn my screen off for a second. No, not that. Just saw the video of me and my wife there. We turn off.
We can't have that video show up on YouTube either.
I have my Monty Python cup that I drink at my Broasters coffee out of every morning. Huge fan of the British humor and the British culture. Anyway, I digress. On to Fandango's British accent.
My kid's super excited that we're talking about Fandango right now.
Yeah.
So we go. We're done backstage. I mean, he calls Legado del Fantasma Los Gatos, which is great. But we're gonna get Roddy Strong paired up with Danny Burch, and we're gonna get Raul Mendoza paired up with Fabian Aichner later on in the evening to determine who is going to which teams are going to wrestle each other for that number one contenders match. That was a fun little concept, a fun little match later on. But we go right back to the ring, Dr. Ted, with Tommaso Ciampa and Jake Atlas. And you know, I mentioned last week that I kind of like this little edge that they're trying to put on Jake Atlas. And when his music hit, he came out with a reason. You know, he came out with like a little bit of a fire, and really got some offense going on Tommaso Ciampa.
What
But
was the first thing they did? I got to stop you here. He
they
did came
locked
out with
up.
good fire, and
Well, they
they
locked up.
locked
Yeah.
up. If you tried to end my career, Colin, and then I had an opportunity to face you one on one, let me tell you, the first thing I'd tell you what I wouldn't do. The first thing is a traditional collar and elbow lockup. I'd be trying to punch you, kick you,
Yeah.
or go after you. That was the thing I thought. You know, he came out with good fire, but I think that was a mistake in that Jake Atlas, and I know, you know, he's not known as being a striker necessarily, but I think that was what he needed to do, is come out and start taking it to Tommaso. Because again, it comes down to, you know, what you're trying to make the viewers believe, that Jake Atlas really hates Tommaso for trying to take him out. And then you start with a collar and elbow lockup. As aggressive as it was, I think that was the wrong choice here. He needed to come out swinging for the fences on Tommaso. Personally, now I'd be wrong. It was still aggressive, but I did think that was the wrong start for this match. You're on mute, buddy.
So I mean, I do agree with you there, Ted, and I feel like would it have been right for Jake Atlas to get disqualified in this match by doing the under the ring thing to Tommaso Ciampa, even though like the ref was like, "Don't do it, I'm gonna disqualify you." Like, you feel like he should have just done it? That could have kind of been the end of the match, or
yes, potentially. I mean, there's other ways they could have gone into it, but yeah, I didn't understand. I mean, who gives a shit? Because to me, it's more about getting revenge than necessarily getting a victory. And at least, you know, that was the context that I took away based on what we saw last week. And the other part of that I thought was strange is when's using part of the ring a disqualification. So, I mean, I can understand, but it should be across the board, because you can hit someone in the head with the ring pole, which is just as hard as what's underneath the ring. But for some reason, underneath the ring's a DQ, and that was another weird thing for me. And honestly, I think it should be a disqualification, but that should be established, and that should be, you can't use the ring pole, you can't use like any metal. If you purposefully take your opponent and strike them against the metal part of the ring, it's a DQ. Same thing with the ring stairs. But then that would at least provide opportunities for heels to cheat more, because the ref could be distracted, or something can happen to where a heel then uses the ring steps or the pole or the under part of the ring. And then it's more meaningful, because now they cheated behind the ref's back and everybody knows it, versus some parts are legal, some parts are illegal. Like that to me, I thought was a stretch. That, okay, that's a DQ all of a sudden. And I've, you know, to me, that was just something I feel like they threw in there that wasn't something that was easily explainable. That, you know, some parts of the ring are illegal, but other parts aren't. You know,
well,
and
that's the kind of up in the air rules of the WWE. I mean, I can throw you into the steps on the outside, and it's not a disqualification. But if I were to grab the steps and hit you with them, then that's a disqualification.
Now,
So
and that's where I think something that you could explain it easily, because we had a rule in OVW some people hated, and it wasn't enforced as consistently as I would have liked. But we had the over the top rule, where if you threw a opponent purposefully over the top, it was disqualification. But we always tried to explain. But if momentum causes you to go over the top rope, then that's not a disqualification. And that's the referee's discretion on if it's momentum or not. And so that's where something like that, you know, okay, momentum caused him to hit that part of the ring, versus he purposely threw his opponent into that part of the ring. You know what I mean? And that context, as long as you stay consistent with it, can be utilized to help build great heat and moments of heat in matches. But if it's inconsistent, then it's, again, it goes back to, then it's confusing for the viewer, because it's like, okay, sometimes that's a disqualification and sometimes it's not. You know what I mean? So, like, again, you can hit your opponent's head on the side of a pole, but you can't hit the under part of the ring, even though they're just as hard. Like that to me as a viewer was confusing. And so not that it killed the business, but it was a moment that kind of took me out of the emotional context of the match too, because instead of thinking about, oh shit, he's about to get his revenge on Tommaso, I was like, why is the referee calling for a DQ if he does that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't want that. You want that emotional context of, holy shit, he's going to get his revenge right here. So that was just, again, that's my 2 cents, and that's more of my nuanced bias take on it. But I still think for people that regularly watch, that could have been confusing.
Well, Ciampa is able to overcome. He hits the Willow's Bell, goes for the pin, but pulls away. Very heelish tactic there. from Tommaso Ciampa. He kind of talks a little bit of trash to Atlas and then nails the fairy tale ending for the win. Tommaso Ciampa goes over here now with some of the business that happens later on in the evening. Dr. Ted, I'm going to have a small prediction once we get towards the end of the show of what could possibly happen. So I hope this doesn't kind of mix in with your homework that we're going to have, because I feel like now with what we saw last week with Tommaso Ciampa and Kyle O'Reilly, and then what happens this evening or what happened last night with the main event, we may see, two men's paths cross here that could really have some entertaining fights, especially with Kyle O'Reilly's like MMA background, his jiu-jitsu and striking and stuff, and with the sports entertainment, the greatest sports entertainer of all time, Tommaso Ciampa's ability and psychology in the ring, they could be for a fun little match and maybe a fun little feud. Who knows? That could be how Ciampa's able to get that number one contender ship away from Kyle O'Reilly, and we get Ciampa versus Finn Balor.
That would be good. Be very good. Two pros for sure.
Now we get a Ridge Holland video package. Now, again, how long have we been watching Ridge Holland?
I mean, for
weeks
me
now, right?
Yes.
Weeks
essentially,
now.
Yeah.
And we're just now getting this video package describing who he is, how he beat up 4 kids. He just went into this like blank rage mode, beat up 4 kids when he was a young one, talking about his rugby, which one of his like he ran over a guy, and it like I audibly popped me like when they showed that spot of him just like running over another guy like almost his same size, if not just a little bit bigger. And being in rugby is where he learned to nurture that skill to hurt people, and the best place to do that is in WWE NXT.
Yeah. Now, I will say, to be fair, it has been a few weeks since we've seen him, at least that I can recall, of him being on television. And so that's where I think it was, especially since it wasn't an overly long pre-packaged video, but at least provided context for the match that we saw a little bit later. It does kind of feel like they're hitting the restart button with him, because he came on the scene and then kind of disappeared. Not that he intentionally disappeared. It just seemed like they had other business going on the television show that didn't involve him, and now they're kind of bringing him back. So I thought this was okay. It kind of, for those that were new viewers, it helped to establish who he was, and for those that maybe haven't seen him for a while, just reestablish, hey, don't forget, this guy's a badass. So I thought it was fine. To your point, you don't want to necessarily be redundant. Like if they start doing this every week, a prepackaged promo for Ridge Holland and then bring him in, it's like, okay, we get it. But I thought, just considering this was, I think, at least for us, a pre-produced video for Ridge, I think the only other one we got was when he did make his debut on the main NXT roster a few weeks back. This was, I think, really his only next really big match, because I think he had that one match with Gargano, and if I remember right, he really hadn't done too much since that point, had he? So
it was mostly multi-man matches that he's been in.
So this was a chance to kind of reestablish him as a singles guy, and I thought it was fine. Again, should they do it every single week? No, but I thought for kind of reestablishing who he is, that this was okay.
Well, we go back to the ring, Dr. Ted. We've got the Undisputed Punch versus Legado de Imperium. Roderick Strong and Danny Burch versus Fabian Aichner and Raul Mendoza. And as we stated before, the winning teams will then face each other in a tag team match to determine who is the number one contender for the title that Breezango has. Fabian Aichner and Roddy Strong kick off this match. Eventually, throughout the match, this is a fun little match, because there was confusion a lot with these guys not really knowing each other. There were the I'm tagging myself in to get the glory kind of tags. You saw Aichner kind of slap Raul Mendoza on the chest really hard. And they made a really nice way of trying to play up the fact that these two teams don't really work together all that much. So they were both groups were kind of off. But Danny Burch and Roderick Strong are able to overcome, and they're able to win in this match. And I also liked at the beginning too, Ted, when Roddy does the undisputed thing where he slaps the ground and does the boom. Danny Burch actually got back there and did his little 2 up in the air to kind of like show their short time together. They've been able to at least work on their entrance, if not being able to be a tag team together here in the ring. Dr. Ted, what were your thoughts on this match and the business of this match?
So the first thing I have to say is I'm embarrassed to say I kept getting confused on Aichner and Burch. Like I feel like their gear was way too similar, and plus they're bald. I don't want to be seen as a baldist. Like I don't necessarily think all bald people look the same, but in this situation, I did keep getting confused as far as who is who, and I imagine a new viewer might as well. So that's where something small like just changing the color of the gear would have made a difference. But they both had black trunks, black knee pads, and black boots, and they look similar. I mean, I think Eichner's a little more stocky compared, or a little more dense compared to Burch, but that kept getting me confused. I'm as embarrassed as I am to say. I think, this was a hard match to work because, traditional tag matches, you have your clear antagonists and protagonists, and they both had to play the Oddfellows game. I think they did the most they could with it. I never at any point felt like I was emotionally invested in this match because it was really more of playing that game over and over and finding different ways to do it versus saying, okay, I want these guys to necessarily win and overcome the odds. That wasn't really the gimmick they were doing. And so I think it could have benefited from having a little less time, and that's nothing to do with the guys in the ring. It's more so there's only so many things you can do for 10 minutes to play the, we're tag teaming together, but we're not on the same page. Now, that being said, I didn't think by any means it was bad. They made the most of their time for what they could. I think if it was, again, maybe just a few minutes less, it would have had more meaning. But I thought for what it was fine. It was, like I said, a difficult situation to be in. I didn't necessarily envy it for any of the guys in it, but they made it work as best they could. And at least it provided something different. And it was, again, because the quality of the wrestling was good. I think at the very least, this wasn't, even though it wasn't as emotionally investing as I think, a traditional tag match could have been. I don't think it was enough to make people tune out, so to speak. So in that sense, it was fine. At least next week when we have the one-on-one, that will be a much easier match to work, because then we can have the emotional context of, okay, this guy versus this guy, and someone can take on more of the role of the protagonist and the antagonist in that situation versus having four guys all with different individual motives.
Yeah. No, that's oh man, that's.
And at some point too, I have to bring up too. This is just a random, just to pull the curtain back a little bit. It's nothing wrong with them. I just hate taking second rope bumps. I know Danny Burch at one point had to take a second rope bump, but it's one of those weird things that it's actually, at least for me, I know a lot of other my colleagues have said the same thing. Taking a bump from the top, as much as it sucks, for some reason it isn't as bad as taking a bump from the second rope. And I don't know if it's just you don't have the same kind of momentum or ability to kind of flat back as easily, but for some reason when I saw him take that second rope bump, I was like, man, I hate second rope bumps, and I just wrote that in my notes. And so I just wanted to bring that up. Nothing wrong with them, but they suck.
No, I haven't taken a second rope bump there, Ted, so I definitely wouldn't know about that. I've tried to take some flat back bumps before in the jiu-jitsu gym when we had the mats and everything out, and it's still kind of hurt. And I thought I had it down pat. So I showed my friend how to like break fall one time in the house in our apartment. And we were on like a first floor apartment. And I landed more on my tailbone than on my back. Ooh. And the concrete flooring under the carpet. Yeah, it wasn't very.
It's all about getting that surface area absorbed. Yeah. When you take a bump, well, one, I don't recommend it on concrete, but if you're using a mat, the best way to explain, not that we're here to give out just random wrestling lessons, but if anyone does have a safe way or a nice surface to be able to practice and you're wanting to get into wrestling, the way I always teach is pretend like someone's got a rug underneath your feet and they're sweeping out the rug quickly from underneath you. And it's like, whoa. And you just try to go flip yourself back as quick as you can. Because any kind of hesitation when you're going back, you run the risk of either like you did, hitting your tailbone or hitting just the top part of your back. And the more you can flat back, the more surface area gets absorbed, and the less likely you're going to get hurt taking just a traditional bump. There you go. Yeah. Little free wrestling lesson for those that are tuning in today.
Yeah. That was the one thing they teach you how to break fall in jiu-jitsu class, and that you got to make sure you tuck your head and slap down to kind of help with absorb the impact of everything and absorb the impact. Yeah. And we normally start out in like a squatting position, Ted, and then just kind of roll to your back. That's kind of how they teach you. I felt like I had it down pat, so I was like, I'm going to try this standing up. So that was me just being a little too crazy back in there. But we go backstage. We've got Austin Theory doing a little bit of SRF fitness. He's got the blue band out. Is he on that 12 or is he on that 16-week program?
It's hard to say. I mean, he's looking good. So, I mean, I have to say probably the 16 week, I'd have to say.
He's shredded. And he's talking to the lady backstage. I gotta learn what her name is. She's not, I'm just so used to Charlie Caruso and Kayla Braxton. I got to learn this one's name. Johnny Gargano comes in and basically tells him, hey, look, soften up Damien Priest, and I won't forget those things that you do for me. And Austin Theory just kind of still has this like, yeah, whatever look on his face the whole entire time that Gargano's there. But so, I thought that they were going to set this up more so where Gargano was going to get involved in the match during the match. But we go back to the ring again, Dr. Ted. We've got Damien Priest versus Austin Theory. And these two men start their match with a lockup too. There's a little bit of fun little chain wrestling going on here. And then, Damien Priest channeling his inner Undertaker, going off the doing the little old school there. This was a fun little match between these two guys. Like Austin Theory, if they keep ragging him, like they talk about how great he is, Dr. Ted, but then they slip in those little jabs kind of about like the thing that he did outside of the ring. It's like they're praising him. Oh man, he's got everything that he can, like he's got it all. He's got the talent. And then there's that, but this kind of thing, or but he's got to do better here or do better there. And it's kind of like me when I watched Impact the other night with kind of how Tommy Dreamer and Brian Myers kind of came together, and he flipped that table, and Tommy Dreamer was just like telling him to pick it up. He's got a second chance here, and he doesn't need to come here and do these types of things. So I feel like they're kind of, letting us know through Austin Theory, like, hey, look, you got maybe one more chance to do this. Like, we see all the potential in the world in you, but don't let your outside of the ring antics kind of ruin this for you. I mean, like the guy's got a great body and a great look and everything to be a potential, great baby face or whatnot down the road.
Yeah. And obviously, I thought the match itself, I agree with you that it was technically sound. As I alluded to earlier, my only, I guess, quote unquote issue, and it's nothing to necessarily do with the guys. It's more the situations that they've been put in. Austin Theory hasn't done enough, at least on this program, to really warrant getting substantial heat yet. Mm-hmm. But then yet he's put in a situation with a proverbial baby face who's just now kind of being booked as a baby face and hasn't done a lot to really get over as a baby face. So it was, I think, from an emotional context standpoint, it was hard to really get emotionally invested in this match. That being said, because the wrestling was at least technically sound, it wasn't by any means bad, but this was one that I did feel if you were just tuning in, you might not necessarily get invested and want to stick around simply because the context wasn't quite there. And again, that's nothing necessarily take away from these guys, except maybe, could they have done something for Austin Theory to get more heat? Potentially, but really that's on the creative and the writers to give people a reason to hate Austin Theory more, besides what we know he's done outside of the ring, which they aren't really playing into or playing up at all, for good reason, because the allegations were obviously terrible. And, obviously I don't know the situation. I still, feel like I haven't been given enough information to feel like, he's necessarily been vindicated, but clearly they're moving forward as if he was. So I'm just trying to take it as it is and think, okay, as a viewer, what reasons have they given me to not like this guy? And other than the fact that he came out and cut a heel promo and slapped Bronson Reed, I can't think of anything else really super heelish that he's done to make me really hate this guy yet. And so, that's why I think from an emotional context standpoint, this match was hard to get into, but from a technical standpoint, it was fine. So take that as you will, but hopefully as things go forward, they'll have more opportunities for Damien Priest to be in situations where he can get more over as a babyface. Doesn't necessarily mean doing babyface things. He just needs to keep being Damien Priest and being the macho, cool heel, but he needs to be put in situations with heels that have established heat.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Damien Priest wins this after razor edging Austin Theory on the apron. and then hits the reckoning to get the win here. And while he is celebrating, Johnny Gargano comes out of nowhere with a super kick, and takes an imaginary bow and arrow and fires it at that North American Championship. That was
I want to talk about that razor's edge on the apron. What do you think I'm going to say about it?
We talked about this once before. Like, you're not a big fan of those spots on the kind of the edge of the apron, or even any kind of spot on the apron. The fact that you shouldn't, not necessarily take those spots.
Right. But I did say that, it depends on the actual bump itself. And this is one of those ones where, believe it or not, I'm actually going to say this was okay. And it goes back to what we were just talking about, the surface area. So, traditional like buckle bomb type scenario where you're hitting the top of your back or the back of your neck with the way they usually do it is very dangerous, and it's not worth the risk. The way he did it here, kind of hit it from the side, and allow Austin Theory to hit his entire back on the apron and absorb more surface area, and kind of allowed him to take his own bump versus just slamming him down. He kind of just tossed him out, allowed him to take a flat back bump. Granted, it wouldn't be a fun bump to take, and it's still not necessarily, in my opinion, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, but this was okay. And so I at least wanted to call that out because, I don't want to just be known as, the guy that just says, I hate anything that, happens on that side of the apron. No, there are situations where it's okay. And this was one I wanted to specifically call out because the manner of the move, and that's where everything, people want to apply these black and white rules to everything. And it's like, everything has to have context or understanding. When you follow the rules to the letter, that's when you wind up in trouble, and, can't give each situation its own individual variables to consider. And this one was actually okay, in my opinion, because it was an otherwise safe bump that allowed Austin to absorb the impact properly and then go into the finish. So, and that was even better. The fact that if you are going to do something like that, at least let it lead into the finish, or at least lead into the quote unquote heat if it were like a tag match or something like that. Now, granted, if it was a singles match, I still don't like it leading to the heat because that's such a big move, but it went into the finish and that was fine. And then Johnny Gargano coming out to get his a little more heat on Damien Priest, I thought was good as well. So I thought this was a good piece of business here to give Damien Priest a strong win, and followed up by Johnny Gargano getting his heat going into the match for the Saturday, right?
Yeah. So. And we have, I missed this on the replay that I watched. Apparently there was a mystery tease that someone will be debuting on October 4th, 2020. Did you get a chance to see this little?
I did. I caught it on YouTube. It was interesting. It almost looked like a little video game, and that was the thing I thought was intriguing. I have no idea, but I like it because it makes more likely that people are going to tune in on October 4th to see what the hell's going on, who the heck this is, and I'm interested. I can't say necessarily it made me, emotionally invested necessarily, because this was more intrigued than confusion. I wasn't confused, but I was more like, this is interesting. I don't really know what to expect, but I am curious, and I will be interested to see what happens on October 4th and who this is.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's got to be somebody who's been there before, because they're saying they're going to come back to take what's theirs. Now I'm trying to think of some people that haven't been around for a while.
Who's the one guy you mentioned, Boogadoo or whoever?
Oh yeah, Bugenhagen.
Bugenhagen. Could it be him? I don't know.
I don't know.
This looked like almost like a Call of Duty type video game where they were coming in and like breaking this case to get a championship belt out or something like that. So I don't know. I really have no idea.
Oh, maybe we're getting like some kind of James Bond style character, or like a master thief or something like that. We go back out for Ridge Holland versus Antonio DeLuca. This is a simple squash match here for Ridge Holland. I mean, he looked vicious, getting the headbutts and finally hitting that Northern Grit for the win. Poor Anthony DeLuca had to go out there and get sacrificed to Ridge Holland.
Real quick, Athers mentioned Jordan Devlin, who never lost his cruiserweight belt.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. I'm unfamiliar with him. I've heard the name, but if that's the context of the situation, that he's never lost his cruiserweight title, then sure, I like that idea. Especially since obviously we're going to see Swerve Scott and Escobar potentially, blow off their angle this Saturday, which I assume Escobar will continue on, and so having another cruiserweight from the UK come in, Jordan Devlin, I think that's potentially it's a good scenario. I'd be interested to see, if that is the case and what he's able to do.
Yeah. I agree with you there, Ted. We go backstage again. I like so one of the things I kind of complained about on Impact Attack was they had a lot of like backstage segments in a row, or like their little kind of pre-cut vignettes and things like that. Here, I feel like they're kind of mixing them up really well. We get a backstage thing, then we go to a match, a backstage thing, go to a match, and we're backstage again. Io Shirai talking about, that she's going to beat Candice LeRae. The Garganos then come and show up, but Damien Priest also arrives, beats up Johnny Gargano, and I love that Matthew Wilkinson knows the WWE so well, Ted. He writes, "Does anybody smell a mixed tag team match next week?" That was exactly where my head was going when I saw this little segment here with the two of these guys. They love just to kind of pair up these random people for these little mixed tag matches just to be able to put everybody on the show and kind of work a little bit of extra business here at those match. Are you excited to see like a Damian Priest, Io Shirai tag teaming against the Garganos?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, it could be fine, and it's nothing against the wrestlers themselves, but other than this one particular moment, I don't really have any reason to really get behind Damian Priest and Io Shirai like a power couple, other than the fact that they both hold championship gold right now, and so it was fine, and maybe they're going to create more context for it, but based on just what we saw, this one little backstage angle, it didn't make me as a viewer want to feel like, man, I have to see this match. It feels like they just wanted to create a situation to give a reason for the match rather than making me feel like, based on these players coming in this situation, a scenario has been created that, man, I've been waiting to see this one. I don't feel that way necessarily. Maybe they'll give me more reasons as time goes on, but right now, I feel like just based on this little backstage angle, it wasn't enough. But it did make me believe, though, again, based on this, that they're trying to put Damien Priest more in that babyface position here. And maybe that was the business they're trying to serve. Maybe they figure putting him on the side of Io Shirai against the Garganos, that's going to present him more as a babyface in that scenario.
Yeah, no, I agree with that there. And that's a good way to kind of present him as a babyface, as you said. And maybe even more people will kind of get those eyes on that match, especially with Io being in there. I don't know what the global draw is whenever she's kind of on TV. I don't know if a lot of the Japanese fans tend to want to tune into NXT because one of their better performers is on the show.
Yeah,
we go to a gauntlet eliminator match. We're at the main event.
Oh no, we didn't hit the Rich Holland match.
That was just the squash match.
Yeah. Okay. So we just basically we're just putting over that. Now I will say I just had one comment on it. The guy that faced Rich Holland started off the match how Jake Atlas should have started his match. Yeah. And that he came in swinging. Now that context, it still worked because he was like, okay, this guy's clearly a monster and was trying to get the better of him. But that's just the small thing I had. I said, hey, this is how Jake Atlas should have started coming out against Tommaso. But other than that, it was just, it was a squash that put over Rich Holland. Wasn't, bad by any means. It did good business to establish Rich Holland as, a monster. And it was fine. It was good business.
Yeah. He had some times there too, because, the part where he said in his pre-promo package about how he had the blackout moments, I thought that when he was kind of stomping him in the corner and the ref was coming over to like do the count, that, he was going to hit that like blank stare mode and just keep stomping him in the corner and possibly get like disqualified, and maybe set that up like, oh God, if Ridge snaps, there's no one is safe.
And that's a good point because they alluded to that. And you're right. They should have played that up. And it could have been as simple as he does the stomps in the corner. Say the referee does get him back. I mean, yeah, it could have been a DQ. Although I am big on if you can avoid a bunch of DQ finishes, certainly they have their place and there are the right times to use it. But I think here, maybe instead of a DQ finish, the referee gets him back and then the camera just peers at him in the face and you just see him just zone out for a second. And then he snaps back into it. And that's when he picks him up and finishes for the win. You know what I mean? Something like that, where he's like, you could see, oh shit, the proverbial brain is, he snapped, so to speak. He's gone into that trance. That would have been a good moment to play that up. The announcers could have talked about, or the commentators could have talked about it and then go right into that finish that they did.
Yeah. I feel like if maybe with another guy, you could really play up like him snapping and like maybe he just beats up like 3 or 4 other dudes in a ring, and then he kind of snaps out of it like, oh my God, I did it again. Like, why does this continue to happen to me? Like, and I know you're not trying to go that comedy route with a guy like Rich Holland yet, but maybe sometime down the road, or we could see something like that where maybe he has an ally, maybe a Drake Maverick, and he goes into that snap mode and just kind of just beats up everybody, including like a Drake Maverick, and then he kind of like snaps out of it, realizes what he did. You see a little bit of kind of like remorse on his face, but then he just still leaves. You keep him as that killer.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's not even something I thought about. But yeah, they didn't even allude to that story that's been going on. And I know it's hard. You only have so much TV time, but I feel like, you have to create a situation, either a package to remind people of what happened, or it could have been a simple 30-second backstage pre-tape. Like, Jake Bradley, like, hey, how come last week when we were a good tag team and you just, bam, he just punches them, and then, okay, we reestablish what's going on with their relationship. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Anytime you don't take the time to establish the stories that you've been telling, that's potentially giving less emotional context for it, and basically alluding to the fact that it's not important because it wasn't brought up again. And not to mention, you remind people of this is the ongoing story. So I think, either they should have done a post-produced package to show what happened, or to have just a short 30-second pre-tape to reestablish that Drake Maverick wants to be Killian Dane's buddy or tag team partner, and Killian Dane just wants to knock his head off. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Do you hear that, game? We want Drake Maverick on our TV getting knocked out every week. Make it happen, yeah. Triple H.
More so, I just want the stories that you've already started to tell on TV, especially if we're going to continue them, to give people a reason to remember them and provide that context.
That's a way better why than what I gave just now, Dr. Ted. We go to our main event match. We've got Kushida and Kyle O'Reilly starting off this fun little gauntlet eliminator match, like this gauntlet Royal Rumble, whatever they got going on here. This night was full of fun little gimmick matches, and Kushida and O'Reilly start off, but they're not able to eliminate each other, and Bronson Reed is the next man out. As he comes out, we get Bronson Reed eliminates Kushida, but we have the Velveteen Dream sneaking in, and he hits Kushida. Basically, Velveteen Dream sneaks in, beats up Kushida, and allows Bronson Reed to eliminate him. So we might be setting up Kushida and a Velveteen Dream feud down the road here. Something that we might get over our television.
And they've alluded to that in the past, when, Velveteen Dream, after I think he got eliminated by Kushida, beat him up afterwards. And then Kushida obviously came back and tried to get revenge on Velveteen Dream. And so it seems like they are going towards that. And I hope they can utilize that as an opportunity to help elevate Kushida. And I hope they do.
Well, and after that, Timothy Thatcher is the next to enter. These guys go around for a little bit. And then my favorite entrant of the match, this guy, he is one of these days, he's going to take the title to the moon. It's Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes comes in, and we've got everybody in the match now. So we, back and forth fighting here. Reed gets up on Thatcher. He's able to kick out. There's a lot of stuff going on here, Dr. Ted. Kyle O'Reilly is able to eliminate Bronson Reed, which leaves just Thatcher, Reed, and Grimes left in the ring.
O'Reilly, Thatcher.
O'Reilly, yeah,
Grimes.
sorry.
Yeah.
Thatcher, O'Reilly, and Grimes still left in the ring. O'Reilly then eliminates Timothy Thatcher, and we're left with O'Reilly and Grimes. And O'Reilly's been in this match for a long time. He's one of the ones that started it. He is able to finally eliminate Cameron Grimes with a boot to the face, gets the knee submission, and Cameron Grimes taps out. Kyle O'Reilly wins this match. Now, Dr. Ted, I admittedly didn't get a chance to finish this match. As I have a
feeling you would have had you watched it in real time, though. I think you would have been very excited, because it looked like Cameron Grimes who I know is a personal favorite of yours, that he might possibly get the Duke. I remember watching it and being like, oh, Colin's going to be excited here because Cameron Grimes looks like he might get an opportunity to go over. But
Oh, man.
unfortunately, he missed his rocket to the moon, if you will. And it was Kyle O'Reilly who ended up getting the victory. But that being said, good things come to those who wait, and, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And so maybe, him not getting that opportunity yet is just going to be that much more meaningful, Colin, when Cameron Grimes does get that opportunity.
Yeah,
so think of it that way.
100% correct in that, Ted. But Kyle O'Reilly, the little clip that I saw last night, made a comment about, O'Reilly, getting his just due as a single superstar. And I think Triple H even put him over on Twitter. Like, this is a guy that's, worked so hard. He's probably been a part of one of the greater tag teams of this era, and Red Dragon with Bobby Fish. And I just hope that this lends to, with Kyle O'Reilly winning this, we get to see maybe him kind of going back and forth with Ciampa. Maybe he wins the title from Finn Balor. Because what do they have for Finn Balor right now other than him just holding this NXT title and kind of being a gatekeeper for guys? I feel like they're ultimately wanting to get this title back into Tommaso Ciampa's hands. Is something that he never lost Goldie, and we've seen the things that Rohit Raju has been doing with the X Division title, and those are the kinds of things that Ciampa was doing with the NXT title, before he lost it. Like, that was his everything. That was his precious.
It's interesting you say that, because I didn't even think about, because I didn't have that context. I wasn't watching NXT when he was the champion, but they have already kind of teased a situation between O'Reilly and Tommaso just last week or the week before, when Tommaso attacked Jake Atlas in the parking lot, and it was Kyle O'Reilly of all people who stopped Tommaso from,
hey man, it's a parking lot.
Hey man, we're just here to park. If you're not here to park, you got to leave, bro.
You don't have validated pass, bro. You can't be back here.
Yeah, where's your ticket? But so that's interesting. So they very well may be going into that. That also, not to mention, would create a little bit of a rift, I feel like, with Adam Cole being the former NXT champion and the longest reigning NXT champion. All of a sudden now his stablemate becomes the champion. And I feel like that would naturally create a little dissension, which is also very interesting, because it seems like if they're wanting to split off, Undisputed Era and split them up at some point, it seems almost like they're putting Roderick Strong and Bobby Fish more in the heel roles, and Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole in the face roles. But then that's even more interesting, because if Kyle O'Reilly does for some reason go over here, then that would create a rift between the two people they've been kind of pushing more in the babyface scenarios. But they might not even go that direction, because I also feel like Finn Balor is going to be a good torchbearer for the NXT brand. And I personally think keeping him as the champ is a good thing to do, especially given the fact that ultimately at some point Karrion Kross is going to come back. And I think having him go over strong on a babyface champion is what's going to help to really reestablish his just, I guess, just being just a brute and being just such a powerful entity in the ring. Personally, I would have Finn Balor to have a lot of good, strong victories as champ and show he's really, he's the guy. He can beat anyone, anywhere. Maybe even give Tommaso that opportunity to get his Goldie back in that situation too, and have Finn Balor go over. Only for, and I don't know if people would like this or not, but I still think it's a great way to reestablish Karrion Kross as a star. So you have Finn Balor have these really, good, beat down, drawn out matches, and then finally when Karrion Kross comes back on the scene, like a Brock Lesnar Goldberg situation, less than a minute, he kills him, and it's like, whoa, holy shit. You know what I mean? I think that would be a good way to really establish Karrion Kross as a force. And so that's why I personally, playing out the long game, would keep the belt on Balor, especially since he has that name recognition as well. But that being said, the scenario they're setting up with not Bobby Fish, with Kyle O'Reilly, that's an interesting twist too. So I wouldn't necessarily fault them if they did decide to have Finn Balor just be basically the transitional champion here. But then again, if that was the case, then part of me also feels like, well, why didn't they just create a situation where Well, I guess it wouldn't have made sense for them to put Kyle O'Reilly in that fatal 4-way though, because really it was about people that have had established histories with that championship, and he wouldn't necessarily fall in that category. So I ended up changing my own mind for myself as I was talking it through. So that could also work. It will be interesting which way to go with it. Personally, if it were me, I think playing the long game with Finn Balor is going to do the better business for when Karrion Kross returns, but I wouldn't necessarily hate on it if they did decide to pull the trigger on Kyle O'Reilly, because I think that creates its own other set of circumstances that could be interesting to play out.
Yeah, yeah, and Bobby Fish, I heard, is getting called up to be some kind of pirate captain of some like shark thing that's going on Raw, like with there's people getting eaten by sharks, and I heard you or Bello, I think I heard you pose the question to Bello, and Bello mentioned Bobby Fish would be a great pirate captain, and I think William Alessi put out there in the rumor mill that that's exactly what's going to happen with Bobby Fish, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we saw Tozawa get eaten by a shark, and I know Billy Ray Valentine wasn't a fan of it, but I said, well, if you're going to play up the ridiculousness, then you have to play it up to the highest level and just make it even more ridiculous. And so that was my thing. I was like, who could be an angry sea captain that could, hunt the shark and cut open the shark, and then Akira Tozawa falls out of it. Then you have that awkward, like, oh, it's you. But I love that's where I'm all about the comedy aspect. And again, it's okay when you play up that, okay, when we're watching this part of the show, this is clearly over the top theatrics. That's why I liked back in the day I remember watching the 24/7 or hardcore title stuff, and that was, to me, again, I was much younger back then, but I remember as a high schooler really being entertained by those parts of the show. And I think it's nice to break up the monotony of the serious drama with some lighthearted, campy, fun stuff too. And that's just my 2 cents. That's my personal bias. If people hate on it, then I don't necessarily disagree with them for hating on it, because they want more, seriousness in their wrestling. I just think from my standpoint, wrestling is essentially is a variety show, and you want to give people to run through the gauntlet of, happiness, laughter, sadness, anger, and everything in between. The more you can pull at different emotional heartstrings with people, the more you get people emotionally invested.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100% with that. That's how you get them invested. You gotta play to their emotions, Dr. Ted, and pulling on those heartstrings is the exact way to do it. That's it for the show. Another great show. We ended the show with Adam Cole and Roddy Strong celebrating out in the ring with their good buddy Kyle O'Reilly. Though Bobby Fish wasn't there. Was he out to sea looking for the shark that ate Tozawa? We'll end the show.
So.
Yeah, we'll end the show on that one. Next week in Raw, you're going to get Retribution fighting a sea captain. They're going to go destroy his boat, probably.
Considering how many people are in Retribution, they're going to need a bigger boat.
We're going to need a bigger boat.
I had to get that one in. Low hanging fruit. I got to pick it every time.
Oh man, that is great, Dr. Ted. Well, do you have any homework for us this week?
Well, it's always hard giving homework on a takeover week, because obviously the context of the pay-per-view is going to dictate a lot of it. But I did think of something. So let's say, regardless of what happens at takeover, and in fact, I'm even okay with people waiting to, in fact, I encourage to wait and see the context of what happens at takeover. But let's talk about Kyle O'Reilly. He's getting the spotlight here. So I would be curious to know, for next week's homework assignment, where does Kyle O'Reilly go after his match at takeover? Obviously, if he wins the championship, then who's his first challenger? And after Finn Balor, I figured, traditionally they get the rematch clause. So let's take Finn Balor out of the equation. If Kyle O'Reilly wins the title, who is next in line, and how do we get there? Or on the other end, if he manages to not capture the title, which I think is probably likely, again, where does Kyle O'Reilly go from here? So I'd be curious. I want you to book out just the next big feud, I guess, for Kyle O'Reilly, or the next angle that we're working towards with him. So you can send that in, as always, to nextlevelwrestlingreview@gmail.com. And next week, live on the show, we will read through your homework and see what you all think as far as what is next for Kyle O'Reilly. Where should we go from here? It's your opportunity to play Booker, to give your creative input on what is next for this young man. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Well, part of me wants to give you my answer now, because I feel like it's going to happen in Takeover. I feel like Dr.
Heather
Ted,
says if he wins, he's going to Disneyland. All right. Well, then Athers, I want you to write out then what is the context of Disneyland and how is this Disneyland adventure for Kyle O'Reilly going to play out into his next feud? I like it. I like where you're going with it. I can't wait to hear it.
He's gonna bump into Goofy, and Goofy and Kyle O'Reilly are gonna end up squaring off at Disneyland, and we're gonna see the Undisputed Era versus the Mickey Mouse Club at NXT Takeover 31 or 32, whichever one comes next.
That'd be fantastic.
So for my little bit of a preview on what I was going to choose for the homework, I'm going to say that he does lose, Dr. Ted. I'm turning in my homework early today. He loses this match, Dr. Ted, but he loses because Tommaso Ciampa gets involved. He's done with his business with Jake Atlas, and he knows that Kyle O'Reilly kind of stood in his way in this feud that he has, and he's gonna find some way to get in that match and maybe get the disqualification to where, you know, Kyle O'Reilly does win, but
You're
he wins
all about
by
these
disqualification.
DQs, Colin. What's up with you and these DQs?
I don't know. It probably has something to do with my radicalization that happened earlier.
DQ
where,
everybody.
Yeah, I'm just bringing a flagpole in and camel clutching everybody with a flagpole like gripped in their teeth and just pulling back, you know. But I don't see Finn Balor. I mean, if he does go over clean in this, maybe Ciampa comes out later. I just feel like Ciampa is going to insert himself into this match some way, somehow. Because again, he has his sights set on Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly has that chance, and ultimately, Tommaso Ciampa wants Goldie back, and I think we're gonna get a really great Tommaso Ciampa Finn Balor match.
Yeah, I think so too. I would say, I mean, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I would just hope if it doesn't, because I would hate to end a pay-per-view on a disqualification. Yeah. So if they have a bigger piece of business to put forth at the end, and on the top of my head, I can't think of what that would be, then that would be fine. But I would say certainly if they are going on the main event with the championship match, which I would expect, you just don't want to leave the fans feeling like they waited all the way to the end to not get a clear-cut winner. That being said, it doesn't mean that Tommaso still can't find his way out there and influence the finish. You know, if there's a spot where the referee gets knocked out per se, then that would, I think, work out. But either way, I'm liking though Tommaso getting himself involved because I think he's a good foil for Finn Balor. Kind of plays, they're kind of two very different characters as far as, Finn Balor, I feel like, is your traditional good old baby face versus, Tommaso. He's just a nasty heel. And I think, again, it's the simplicity of it. And that's one of the things I like about NXT. You have your clear-cut baby face, and then you have your clear-cut heel. And I would like that scenario. I think that could definitely work out for those guys.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. Dr. Ted, I'm going to go ahead and plug the social media stuff. Yes. Guys, you can find me on Twitter at Colin Wysong. You can find me on Facebook at Colin Wysong. You can find me every Friday at the PW Hustle Networks with the Ridiculously Random podcast with my co-host Fame Black. Listen to Cage Theory. John Hartnett's back. John Hartnett was in the corner of Colby Covington the whole entire time that he was gone, and he wasn't on the show. But he's hopefully this Monday, after this awesome pay-per-view that we're going to have this weekend at UFC 253, John Hartnett will be back with Bulletproof Blake Troop and JB for Cage Theory. They wanted me to be on the show, but my last day of work is Monday, and I got to close, so I'm not going to be able to do the recording. They used to record later in the evening, but Troop has something going on now after 9:00 Pacific time, and they record a little earlier now, which kind of cuts me out of there. But guys, check out Cage Theory. Check out all the shows that we have at hackerhameen.podbean.com, and check out the affiliate shows over at Hameen Media Group .podbean.com, and or is it Hameen Media? Is it
Hameen Media Group? Yeah,
gotcha. And we're still doing the Dave Meltzer, our star search. It's a 6-star star search. We've got a few shows in the can that we've kind of chosen. Hopefully your show is one of the ones that gets picked. I know Ben was putting over the Boar Meets World.
And I'll say,
podcast.
even if your show didn't get picked, feel free. And I think we're going to try to give feedback to everyone. Just know that it doesn't mean that it's, that we never want you as part of it. It just means there might be certain things we would want to help enhance your show or make it, more in line with what we're looking for. So we're always glad, because we're always looking to help everybody grow. So, please, if you didn't make the final cut, don't feel like it's anything personal. In fact, we would love to be able to do what we can to help you enhance your show and present it better. So that way in the future that there's still the opportunity to be presented as an affiliate show. So don't think it's the end of the world if you don't get picked. Obviously, those that do make it, good on you, but just, I don't want any hard feelings after this, because we're all about people chasing after their passions, chasing after their dreams. And if there's any way that we can help to facilitate that, we're always glad to do so. So, definitely don't take it that way if you aren't picked, because we want to do what we can to give you that feedback to help you to achieve your dream and make it a reality as far as being a show host.
Ben's coming back, and I don't have.
Yeah, you better get dressed. Well, while you're getting
infidels
dressed there. I'll go ahead and say you can follow me as well at Ted the Man Beast on Twitter and Instagram, or Ted McNaler on Facebook. You can find me there. And of course, if you need to reach out to me for any injury or rehab needs, or just need, if you're a wrestler wanting some character work or just creative writing ideas for you, you can reach out to me at bookthedoctor@gmail.com. And I'd be glad to set up a time to work with you on those things.
Yalla, Ted. Thank you for listening to the Next Level Wrestling Review. This has been Radicalized Colin for Dr. Ted. Yalla.
We'll see you next week. Good God. All right. Oh, wait. Nope. This is awkward, isn't it? Let's hit this button, and now